Followers, you are dismissed. So if you have a child from the ages of 3 to 2nd grade, just follow Miss Susan or Miss Jan out the door there. They'll be safe. A lot of kids. If you want to help with children's ministry, that's why we need help. Hey, today will be an interesting, for me, sermon message. Hopefully it is for you. It is out of character for me and probably even something unique for you. But we're going to start a series called the Book of Daniel. It's a book in the Bible. And we can't get into the book of Daniel without understanding the context and the history involved around that time period and what led Israel to chapter 1 of Daniel. So my challenge is going to be to get us up to speed on Daniel 1 so we can understand what is taking place and why. Because this is something you may not have heard before, maybe you have, but you're going to have a problem with it, is the books of the Bible weren't written with you in mind. That's different, isn't it? When Paul was writing to Ephesians, he was writing to a place called Ephesus in a church that was already there. Now, because God works the way He works, He can use what was written and speak to our lives today. But if we understand what was happening in history in that time, we get a deeper understanding of why it was being written and what was happening and how the people would respond to the message. And if you don't know what's happening in Daniel 1, what takes place, the rest of Daniel will have much less significance to your life. So we're going to get ourselves in there. This new headpiece is driving me crazy. I'm sorry, guys. I'll be doing that a lot today, probably. So we're going to become detectives today. We're going to start with the book of Daniel, chapter 1, and just read the first 5 verses in there. We're going to go back through it again and look at clues that we can find and backtrack our way through Scripture that'll lead us to when this whole thing began and how Israel got to the place it's in Daniel 1. Let's open with prayer because I need a lot of it today, and you need to stay awake. Father God, we just thank you so much for what you're doing. Speak to our lives, Lord. May we just be in a place, as scary as it is emotionally, that these Israelite people were in as your message is received through the book of Daniel and through all these other books. Lord, break our heart for what their heart was broken for. Speak to our hearts and our minds and our souls. And thank you for always teaching us. Amen. Let's just read it. Daniel 1, verse 1 through 5. In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, I told you, I'll pronounce it like I want to, king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem and besieged it. The Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand, along with some of the vessels of the house of God. And he brought them to the land of Shinar, to the house of his God, and he brought the vessels into the treasury of his God. Then the king ordered Ashpenaz, the chief of his officials, to bring in some of the sons of Israel, including some of the royal family and of the nobles, youths in whom was no defect, who were good-looking, showing intelligence in every branch of wisdom, endowed with understanding and discerning knowledge, and who had ability for serving in the king's court. And he ordered him to teach them the literature and language of the Chaldeans. The king appointed for them a daily ration from the king's choice food and from the wine which he drank, and appointed that they should be educated 3 years, at the end of which they were to enter the king's personal service. There's a lot of stuff there. And if you just kind of gloss over it, you can do that very easily and just keep on reading to the good stuff, the story of Daniel and what he does, right? That's the good stuff. But these 5 verses have got a lot of clues in there that we want to stop and slow down and investigate. The first clue that I see is verse 1. In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah. Many of you probably know this, but I'm not going to assume anything. Why does it say king of Judah? Why not king of Israel? That's the king of the Israelite people, What's going on there? Well, we have to go back. And when you know it, Chronicles and King, a book earlier in the Bible, documents what's happening. See, what happens is King David, well, before that, King Saul was the first king of Israel. Okay, he wasn't a very good king. When he died, eventually, King David took his place and was a great king. And he united for the first time all the 12 tribes of Israel. We should have a map up here, I think. It's tiny, I'm sorry. So that shaded area is the land that David and eventually his son Solomon controlled, all under one nation called the nation of Israel. Very important piece there. Solomon came after David. When Solomon died, his son took over. Not a very good king. In fact, like most of the other tribes, decided, we don't like you, we're done. And like the Civil War, they seceded from the Union. And we have two kingdoms, next slide. We have the northern kingdom of Israel and the southern kingdom of Judah. And from this point forward, 900 BC, this point forward, you have two kingdoms and you have two kings. And so if you follow Chronicles and Kings through the line there, you're going to see different kings, king of Israel, king of Judah. Judah is significant because that was King David's tribe. So all that tribe of Judah said, well, we're going to still follow the line of David because David was our king, and that's who we're going to think of as being God's king. Two lines, boom. Israel and Judah. If you follow through books of Chronicles and Kings again, you'll see that every king in Israel, in the northern kingdom, was evil. There were some shining moments maybe in their history, not very much. Evil. And about 700 or so BC, Assyria came in and took out the northern kingdom of Israel. Evil in his sight. You go through the Bible, it'll tell you this king did evil in the sight of the Lord. And Assyria came in, conquered them, and they just kind of fled to the four winds, and they're scattered throughout the world, through that area there. But 135 years later, the southern kingdom of Judah is continuing with their kings. And then we have this Daniel 1 passage where we find out that the king of Judah is Jehoiakim, and Nebuchadnezzar, king, back in Daniel again, king of Babylon, and came to Jerusalem and besieged it. What does besieged mean? Well, it can mean conquered. It can mean defeated. It can also mean they just showed their power. Well, we have to go back to Scripture and get a better idea of what's taking place. Side note, did you know there is no book, historically speaking, like the Bible? If you don't believe in God or in all the supernatural things that God did that's claimed in this book, and take that part out of it, and you put it side by side with any historical text, it stands up to it. There's no book like it in all of our history, period. There have been textbooks that your kids have read and studied and written about, reports about, that only have 9 examples of it through history, 9 copies of it that were found that were dated like hundreds and hundreds of years after the event. Julius Caesar's writings, all that he did, was written hundreds of years after he came and died. And we teach it like it's absolute fact. There are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of manuscripts dating back to up to 30 years from the event of biblical accounts. Did you know that? Did you know that in the Bible, in Genesis, there's a people called the Hittites that history says never existed? And so for hundreds of years, people said, that's proof the Bible made it up, it's mythology, it's not true, it's just what you think you believe. For hundreds of years. In 1930-ish, archaeologists uncovered this obelisk, and it's written down these history of what happened in armies and wars or whatever, and this word was in there that said Hittites. Weird, huh? And so archaeologists uncovered, as they dug, this series of caves. The Bible calls them cave dwellers. The only historical account we have of the Hittites is in the Bible, and they found evidence of it in archaeology. So, if you want to say, well, it's that God thing's not part of that, Historically speaking, it's more accurate than anything we have. It's incredible. Incredible. So we're going to use the book for a history book too today. Second Chronicles, chapter 36. So we're back a few chapters here. 36, if I can get there fast enough. Got it, 1. Verse 5 through 7. 36, 5 through 7. Jehoiakim, same guy, same king, was 25 years old when he became king. And he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. And he did evil in the sight of the Lord his God. Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came up against him and bound him with bronze chains to take him to Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar also brought some of the articles of the house of the Lord to Babylon and put them in his temple at Babylon. Okay, that's one account of Jehoiakim. Did evil in the sight of the Lord, but we don't have enough evidence there. So we're going to go back to the 2 Kings and read more about Jehoiakim. Stay with me, wake up. It does get pretty cool, I promise. 2 Kings. I have written down here, but I like to have my Bible open because it's, I don't know, this is a pastor thing to do, I guess. 36, chapter 22, verse 36, and we're going to go into chapter 24. So 23, verse 36 to 37. Here we go. Jehoiakim, same guy, was 25 years old when he became king. And he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Zebidah, the daughter of Pedaiah of Rumah. He did evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his fathers had done. Oh, his fathers are evil too. Got it. Verse 1. In the days of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came up, and Jehoiakim became his servant for 3 years. That's that besieged piece. This is what happened. This is what happened a lot in those days. You have a great nation that's powerful, empire that is strong. They don't want to have to lose people to conquer you because it's going to win anyway. So they come to your town or your city and say, listen, we can either kill you or you can just say, we'll follow you. It's choice is yours. What do you want to do? Well, a lot of small kingdoms say, well, we'll just follow you. Then you're going to pay me some tribute. You're going to pay taxes to me. You're going to say you're part of my nation, part of my kingdom. I'm your king. You can still do your own thing like you want. That's fine. When I need you for war, you send your soldiers to me, and I get to use them for fodder. Okay, that's the deal. And for 3 years, Jehoiakim said, okay, that's fine. I'll follow you. I'll pay you tribute. I'll do your thing. And 3 years he did this. And then it says right after that, and then he turned and rebelled against him. Oh, okay. Verse 2. This is where it gets good. The Lord sent against him bands of Chaldeans, bands of Arameans, bands of Moabites, and bands of Ammonites. It says the Lord sent against him. Did you see that? The Lord sent against Jehoiakim, sent against Judah, sent against his chosen people. The Lord sent them against him. That seems interesting to me. I don't know why he did that. So he sent them against Judah to destroy it according to the word of the Lord, which he had spoken through his servants, the prophets. What word is that? This is part of your investigation. Underline that. We got to go back and find out, where does that come from? What is he talking about? What is taking place? What could have happened that the Lord would say and send people against his people? Quick reminder. God had a covenant with these people called the Israelites. A promise, a deal, so to speak, where I will make you my people. I will bless who you bless. I will curse who you curse. I will make your nation great beyond the stars in the sky. But you will follow my laws. You will follow me. I will be your only God. It sounds like something didn't happen there because we know God never breaks his promise, but we know that we do. There's something else there. If we go to 2 Kings, we're just going back. We're going reverse timeline here. 24, 2 Kings chapter 24, verse 1. Oh, we already did that anyway. Sorry, my bad. 2 Kings 23, verse 26 through 27. However, the Lord did not turn from the fierceness of his great wrath, with which his anger burned against Judah, because of all the provocations with which, here's the clue, Manasseh had provoked him. The Lord said, I will remove Judah, the lower kingdom, I will remove Judah also from my sight, as I have removed Israel, the northern kingdom. And I will cast off Jerusalem, this city which I have chosen, and the temple of which I said, my name shall be there. This verse 26 there, however, that's in response to the king who's just died, or just about to die, Josiah. King Josiah was a king who did great things. He did good in the sight of the Lord. And so what God is saying is, I don't care how good he did. I'm not going to turn back my anger. It's a scary idea, guys. Why? What could have happened that was so bad that even this King Josiah, who did so many good things, you won't turn your anger from us? Well, Josiah was the grandson of Manasseh. So Manasseh and Manasseh's son do evil in the sight of the Lord. What could they have done? 21 is a chapter now. This is a long one, so bear with me. Verses 1 through 16. 2 Kings 21, verse 1 through 16. And just before we begin, Manasseh is the son of Hezekiah. Hezekiah is known for being the best king they ever had. And what that means is this. Well, this is what would happen. A king would come in or take over from his father, and they would do one of two things. They would either put false gods from the other nations' gods, the Asherah, the Baal, and they put them in all the holy places in the kingdom. And they'd say, hey, listen, let's worship this false god because he's easier to follow. We can see him, we can touch him, we can look at him. Let's follow this God instead of following our God, which is breaking the covenant, breaking the deal they had with God. So one king would do that, and then another king would finally come through and say, you know what? All these false gods, they don't belong here because we have one God. And so they would go through and they'd remove them all and destroy them. And based on how much they got rid of, determine on how good of a king they were, that by bringing the nation back to God. And then another king would come in and say, hey, let's put these other things back in place for whatever reason, and turn our backs again from God. So Hezekiah did a lot of good for the kingdom of Judah, brought God back as a focus, got rid of all the junk that was there that didn't belong. So this is Manasseh, verse 1 through 16. This is long, but bear with me. Manasseh was 12 years old when he became king. He reigned 55 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Hephzibah. He did evil in the sight of the Lord, according to the abominations of the nations, and the Lord dispossessed before the sons of Israel. For he rebuilt the high places which Hezekiah, his father, had destroyed. And he erected altars for Baal and made an Asherah as Ahab, king of Israel. King of Israel. Remember, I told you, all the kings of Israel were evil in the sight of the Lord. So this Manasseh is following after a king of Israel. Not a good idea. Not a good idea. Had done. And worshipped all the hosts of heaven and served them. He built altars in the house of the Lord, of which the Lord had said, in Jerusalem I will put my name. For he built altars for all the hosts of heaven in the two courts of the house of the Lord. He made his son pass through the fire, practiced witchcraft, and used divination, and dealt with mediums and spiritists. He did much evil in the sight of the Lord, provoking him to anger. Then he set the carved image of Asherah that he had made in the house of which the Lord said to David and to his son Solomon, in this house and in Jerusalem, which I have chosen from all the tribes of Israel, I will put my name forever. Did you hear that? He put a fake God in the very house they believed God said, my name is here. This is my house. And Manasseh had the audacity to put this false God in there to replace him. And I will not make the feet of Israel wander anymore from the land which I gave their father. This is the promise he made before. If only they will observe observe to do according to all that I have commanded them, and according to all the law that my servant Moses commanded them. But they did not listen, and Manasseh seduced them to do evil more than the nations whom the Lord destroyed before the sons of Israel. Another piece there, guys. It says there on verse 10 or verse 9 there, they did not listen, and Manasseh seduced them being the people, to do evil more than the nation before them. Not only is Manasseh doing bad things, the people are following. They're doing it too. It isn't a matter of God saying, listen, your king was awful, so I'm going to wipe you all out because your king is bad. What he's saying is, you are as bad as your king. You follow whatever king you have. If they happen to be good, then you're good. If they're bad, then you're bad. You have no decision. You can't make a choice for yourself. You're just sheep. You're just blind sheep following who you think and hope is a good leader with no faith of your own. Continue on, verse 10. Now the Lord spoke through his servants, the prophets, saying, because, this is the prophecy that was mentioned later, because Manasseh, king of Judah, has done these abominations, having done wickedly more than all the Amorites did who were before him, and has also made Judah sin with his idols. Therefore, thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, behold, I am bringing such calamity on Jerusalem and Judah, that whoever hears of it, both his ears will tingle. I will stretch over Jerusalem the line of Samaria and the plummet of the house of Ahab. Ahab, king of Israel, remember that? And I will wipe Jerusalem. This is great imagery, and it's terrifying. I will wipe Jerusalem as one wipes a dish, wiping it and turning it upside down. Man. I will abandon the remnant of my inheritance and deliver them into the hand of their enemies. And they will become as plunder and spoil to all their enemies, because they have done evil in my sight and have been provoking me to anger since the day their fathers came from Egypt, even to this day. This isn't a one-time event where God says, you know what, you screw up once, you're out. This is hundreds of years of history. Read through this book. You'll see it. There's a thing called the cycle of sin or cycle of rebellion, where Israel will come to God and they'll worship him, and they will be, just so in love with him, and so he's the only one for them. And within sometimes minutes, sometimes years, they turn their back and say, you know what, that God is too hard. He's too scary, and I can't see him anyway. Let's follow these other gods that we can make with our hands and see with our eyes. It's an easy God to follow. And when that happens, the covenant's broken, and God would remove his hand from them, and someone would attack and invade, or someone would come and persecute them. And what would they do? What do all kids do when they're in trouble? Daddy, I'm sorry. Daddy, I'm sorry. Please come and save us again. And because he's not because he's a faithful God, he puts his hand back on and sends, in the book of Judges, he sends a judge. He sends you one guy to come in, or a woman even, and they would lead you out of this turmoil and deliver you. And then for a time, Israel will be back again. We love you, God. You're the only one for us. We love you, God. And then they turn their backs to God again and worship these fake gods all over again. And it's this cycle, this constant cycle of God sending someone to finally get you back delivered again because you're an idiot, and we are. Let's be honest here, guys. And oh, God, you're on for us. Oh, no, you're not. No, you're not. We're sorry, God. And can you imagine the patience that this man has, this God has? Man, hundreds. And finally, they're like, we don't want these judges anymore. We want to have a king. Okay, fine. You can have a king. And the kings are good or bad depending on the whim of themselves. And the people will follow the king, not follow God, follow the king. He's putting up something false, a fake God up. That's okay. That's fine. Constant. And Manasseh was the last straw. So much, in fact, that even when his grandson, Josiah, turns the nation back to God, God says it's not enough. You don't get it. It's not working. We tried paradise. We tried perfection. We tried only one thing. Don't eat the fruit. You didn't get it. So then we tried something different. I will show you my power. I will do all these things for you. I will show you how strong I am. I'll have a cloud before you and behind you. I will speak to you directly. They said, don't talk to us directly anymore. It's scary. Talk to Moses. He'll tell us what you said. It didn't work. He tried judges, prophets. It didn't work. He tried kings. Didn't work. So understand the framework of the people. What's happened? 100 and so years ago, the northern kingdom, our siblings, so to speak, been wiped out. And now we're looking at ourselves and we've been wiped out. Imagine the hopelessness they must feel. They've been abandoned in their minds. Where is God? Where could he have gone? And so as Daniel begins, that's the question that they're asking themselves. Where is God? And the theme of Daniel is this: God's faithfulness. Even though God said, I'm done, I'm out, he didn't really say that. He said, I'm still there. I'm with you. It's just not working. I got a different idea. And he had it from the beginning. Kings didn't work, prophets didn't work, judges didn't work. I'm going to send you my son instead. It's not time yet. I got to prepare the way for him to come. And when he comes, that'll work. And so the people reading this Daniel as it's taking place or hearing about it later, they're like, we don't deserve this. But God's still working. And there's prophets in this book who are still living in Israel, in Judah, during the time of all this. So we get the word of people living in Babylon who've been taken from their homes, and the word of people who are still in Judah, experiencing in very near future here, their temple where God lives is going to be destroyed. The wall around their city is going to be destroyed. They have nothing left except God. And he is faithful. And he's enough. They just didn't get that. And so what is so exciting to me as we read through Daniel and we go through the next 5 weeks or so, we'll just see, we can remember what the people are experiencing, what they're going through emotionally, physically. Imagine being in Judah still and all your kids, they've been taken from you. And they're being raised by people in Babylon, being trained to be Babylonians. Imagine being taken from your home in a foreign country and you're raised there, never seeing your family again. What do you have to hold on to? A God who is faithful. And what's so cool is this story of Daniel, it continued because what happens? They finally, Babylon is defeated by Persia. We'll get to that later. Persia sets the people free and says, go back to your homes. That's fine. What happens a couple hundred years later? Rome comes in and conquers Israel. And the Israelites can do this. They can read through Daniel and say, remember when Babylon came and took us over? Remember that? And he set us free again. So eventually, I don't care how big Rome is, they knew God is still faithful. And what do they get? They get the ultimate king, don't they? They get Jesus Christ. Daniel is an amazing story, and it's made even more so when you know the history behind it. My prayer for you is that no matter how difficult life gets, and it will get difficult, that you will remember God is faithful. It didn't matter. There's this interesting correlation that we can recognize, or that we can't recognize. It doesn't matter how good a king was in Chronicles or in Kings. It had nothing to do with how long they reigned. Some of the best kings had a short reign. And they died in sometimes brutal ways. Some of the worst kings, Manasseh, the worst king of all, ruled 55 years in Judah. There's no connection between how good they were and how long and how comfortable their lives were, or how bad they were and how short and how awful they had their life. But we, as Americans, make the connection that if I'm good, if I'm holy, then I'll be healthy, I'll live a long life and be happy. And that's not true. That's not what the Scriptures teach us. The people wouldn't want that at all. So remember, God is faithful in ways you can't begin to understand. And as you are blessed, and you have been, and you will be, it's not about you being blessed, but who can you bless? The team comes forward to close in a song. I want this time just to be spent in fellowship with the Father. What is God calling you to do? Is God reminding you of His presence? He's showing you something in your life? How can you learn and grow through a bad time? God is faithful. Never forget that.